All right, hello students. How are you doing? What I'm going to talk to you about today is a little bit of what I'm going to be looking for with this week's assignment because a little people have been confused and expressed confusion, and I wanted to make sure that I clarified this a little bit for you. And also, I want to talk a little bit about research too to kind of guide and direct you. So, what I'm looking for this week is remember, you have a final paper that's going to be due this course. And it's coming up fairly quickly. So, I wanted to make sure that you are on the right track and that you're going to write a paper that is going to get a decent score. If you read through the information, remember I said if you write on a subject matter that is very bland, has been historically covered multiple times, it is not historically significant, or it's like an encyclopedia article, your best score you're going to get is probably at the most a B, but more likely a C. I grade your final papers pretty hard, so that's why I want to make sure that you are prepared for it. So, what I'm looking for this week in this submission is first and foremost what your thesis is. So, your thesis statement is what you are going to be talking about in your paper and also why it is unique. So, pretty much your thesis topic should be very focused. I don't want to see a thesis along the lines of, and this is the reason why I'm bringing this up, is I'm going to kind of use it as an example, is the Harlem Renaissance was a defining and changing point in Black America cultural development. That's not a thesis statement. That is a very generalized topic. That is going to be not something I'm going to say is going to be a well written paper because it's just going to be so general and so broad. If you are going to write a topic about maybe the Harlem Renaissance or Black America in the 1920s and 30s, you need to focus on a very specific aspect of it. So, say, for example, you wanted to focus on music and you're like, I'm going to write about jazz. Again, jazz is such a broad topic that you can't just say, I'm going to talk about the creation and the growth of jazz in the 1920s and how it became more mainstream. That, again, is such a broad, open topic that's been covered multiple times that it's not going to work out. You need to focus on maybe a very specific element of jazz or a specific style of jazz, who the important key people were, how it influenced and changed music into current time. Those would be something more along the appropriate time frame, okay? Also, I need to at least see that you've done some research, so I'm looking for two sources that you're using. One must be a primary source. Remember, primary sources are the person was there, they witnessed it, they saw it, they are an actual person that can give you direct evidence about that time frame. And then the other one, I must have a secondary source, which is just an academic paper or a very specific academic process, maybe from like the government or something along those lines. Really avoid anything that's Wikipedia, history.com. I don't want to see those, okay? This assignment also is what I call a pass fail. It's worth 50 points, and either you get all 50 points or you get no points. Now, that doesn't mean you can't make those points up again. All right. So, what's going to happen is you're going to submit this. I'm going to review your thesis. And if I agree that it is a workable thesis and it's going to go forward, you're going to get all 50 points. If I say this is not a fully developed thesis, it's too broad of a topic, or you have no research behind it, I'm going to reject it, but I'm going to reject it with options, okay? So I'm going to say, okay, this is a topic, it's too generalized, it's too broad, maybe focus on this, or this, okay? Then you will rewrite your thesis and resubmit it again, and when I approve it, I will also then give you full points on it, okay? So make sure that you are working on that and that you give me a solid topic and a solid source, okay? Now, your initial post should be done by 7/8. All right. I would like it done by the end of this week, but even it being late, I'm only going to accept it till 7/8. The reason why is that you have your paper due on week 7. If I remember correctly, is it week 7 or week 8? It's upcoming. um, it's upcoming, and that doesn't give you a lot of extra time to be able to fiddle around trying to create a thesis statement that is either going to work or not work, okay? Your final paper is going to be done on week 7. So you have week 7 to get that final paper, and so that's why we need on week 4 you to actually say, this is what I'm writing on. If you are trying to write it at the very last week, it is not going to work. You're going to have a very poorly written, poorly structured paper, and it is not going to bode well for your grade, okay? So make sure that you get this done. Now, let's talk really quickly about research. Now, at Valencia College, you do have access to a library, okay? If you come underneath your area where it has My Atlas, there is a section in here that says libraries, okay? And one that says search the library. You're going to click on search the library. When you click on searching the library, it is going to pull up a page that looks like this. I had it open and then I don't know where it went to. Okay, so it's loading up here. Your library is going to be your best friend, especially when it comes to secondary sources, okay? So here you can really search anything at all. Another thing, too, that's a benefit is at the very top, if you notice, there's a section for citation help. This is guides that will help you with Chicago style citation. Remember, that's what we are using. So there's an entire section here with a Chicago manual of style. You can just pull that up and take a look at it, okay? Now I'm also going to show you another way to look at citations too. Most of these sites are going to have access to it. Now, say for example, you want to talk about the development of black families in the 1920s, okay? Remember I was trying to talk about the Jazz Age. This is also another topic that maybe somebody was going to be researching. I do get a lot of students that really like to talk about racial and cultural issues. That's why I picked this one, just because I see so much of it that maybe I can direct somebody, okay? So my basic topic search that I did here was Black Families 1920s. It is as simple as putting in something such as that that's going to pull up a lot of different articles and topics, okay? Now, this is going to pull up, as you can see, there is multiple articles here. Not all of them are going to be 100% right in the same direction that you want to, so you're going to have to go through this. Now, one reason why I'm showing you this is when we go back to the final paper assignment, aside from your thesis, you need to give me an overview of your topic and the historical significance. What does that look like? Well, that's why I'm showing you this research while I'm going through this, is because this is going to give you a little bit of an idea. So say, for example, I wanted to talk about this Harlem life, black families and everyday lives in the 1920s and 1930s. And I want to look at this and think, is this going to work for my paper? Is this going to be a resource that I can use? And you don't want to sit there and spend time reading an entire maybe 10, 15, 30 page article. Well, when you click on this and it opens it up, you are going to see an article that looks like this. Okay, so it's going to say this Harlem's Lives. And what you're going to look at is something called the abstract. All right, so the abstract is what I am looking for here. I am looking for the short 200 to 400 word overview of your topic and historical significance. It is basically, I am looking for an abstract as to what you are writing about. The abstract right here, if we were looking at this and we wanted to write on this topic, it's going to tell you what primary source information that it's using. It's going to highlight information about black metropolises they offered outside the political and cultural elite who it's just going to go a lot of different things. It's going to give you information about, say, right here, relationships with spouses, children, and cousins, sustained individuals face with the social reality of living in overcrowded, deteriorating, disease-infested housing, subject to the racism, okay, so on, so on, so on, so on, so forth, okay? The reason why I'm showing you this is because you do not have to read this whole article. You can just read this abstract that will tell you a general overview of what the article is. That is what I am looking for on this assignment, is basically an abstract, a general overview of what your paper plans to cover, the main topics, and some of the evidence that you're going to be using, okay? Use this as kind of a template when you're looking at these articles as to how you're going to write. So, for example, like this article, it is really long. So I'm not sure if any of you would want to just sit there and pour through this whole article if it may not meet your needs, okay? Also, one thing I want you to utilize when you're looking at these types of articles is looking over this and reviewing it. One thing you'll notice is if this is an article that works for you, that is beneficial for you, start looking at the notes, okay, the citations. Then you can come down here at the bottom and say, for example, you want to be able to maybe find some more information about Black lives within this time frame. You can look up something along here. You can look at maybe people that are that have reviewed over or written about this type of topic, okay? And that you might be able to find an article that you can also review and be able to pull from later on, okay? So many of these are books, so it might be a little bit harder for you to pull from, but what you want to look for is maybe an article or two that might work out that you could pull from and then research that article, okay? Maybe, for example, if you were looking at, say, we get a little bit interested in this, we look at Jeffrey's Adler's article, we might be able to find this if we do a search for it back at the library. Okay, many times you can do that. So here we go. We're just going to look for everything. Okay, so right here, see, you can now have access to that article and you can pull it up, and maybe this will help you with your further research into it. So you're going to pull this up. Let's say we'll just open up the PDF here and take a quick look, as this might help and evolve your research. And then again, it's going to pull up the article itself. It's going to give us a general abstract as to what the article is talking about. Sorry, this is taking a little bit longer to pull up than normal. Yes, I accept. By the way, JSTOR is like my favorite place on earth when it comes to researching anything. You have access. All these articles are linked to multiple research libraries, okay? JSTOR is probably one of the greatest ones out there. All right, so say you're thinking about using this. This one doesn't necessarily have a abstract to an extent. You can come down here and read it on this one. So if you want to read about what this is going to cover, this is more. So it says right here, maybe we want to talk about African Americans, murder rates in Chicago in the 1920s. I don't know necessarily this is going to bode well for if you wanted to look at Black family life in the 1920s, okay? I was just kind of using this as an example of how you can pull other articles to help you in your research, okay? One thing that you can do here is, say, for example, you're like, oh, wait a minute. I was going to research about Black families, and now I'm interested in studying about violence that occurred in the cities of Chicago. And suddenly you're going, wait, so if I use this article, I can find out all about murders in Chicago's. And then you can look at, say, George Kibble Turner talks more about this. Maybe I can find a little bit more information about this too. And you start going down your rabbit holes, okay? This is going to allow you to start finding additional articles that might help you start to link to it. Now, not all of them, again, like I said, are going to link to articles. You may just have to find another article to go research or find. But this guy right here, look, they're going to link you to other authors who might give you an idea about something else that you're looking at. So here's an article. This could help you, again, if you're looking about prongs of poverty and how it impacted Black Americans. Again, this has a little bit of information about it. So I hope this helps you out just a little bit as to what is being expected for this assignment, how to do a little bit of additional research. These are all secondary sources for the most part. Do not use these as your primary sources unless, again, one of the great things about doing research and finding these types of articles is you might be able to find in here, as they're looking through it and they're talking about different sources that they pull from, you might be able to pull from some of those primary sources too, okay? You might find that they cite something in here that is directly related to an interview that was done with a person at the time, or maybe a person who had done research specifically during that time frame and have interviews that you might be able to pull from. Utilize your research to help propel you to different ideas in different sections. Do not just cite from one article. You're not going to just sit here and look at this article and be like, I'm going to pull the key points from this article and write a paper on this. You can't just be sitting there citing this article all the way through. And if you think to yourself, well, maybe I'll just sum it up and I will pull research from this article, trust me, the plagiarism checker will catch that and it will link me directly to this article. And I'm going to be like, oh, now I got to read this article. Now I got to see if you pulled all your information from here. Use this as just pieces to guide you towards your actual topic. I'm going to tell you, when you're writing like a history paper, when I wrote my master's thesis, I had a total of 75 different articles that I used. An additional 25 primary sources that I pulled from, and all of them had various elements from different ideas and topics and research from the areas. And so I used all of those to combine it into one final paper, but it pulled from papers that had multiple perspectives, different views, and some of them weren't necessarily even directly related to the topic I was discussing, but it had research information in it that did relate to the topic eventually, okay? So remember, sometimes even though a paper and maybe sometimes even the abstract may not 100% be what you're looking for, maybe just do a quick sum up, a quick review over it, and see if maybe it has a piece or two that might help out your research further, okay? If you are having additional issues using the library, let me know. I really love the library and I hope that you utilize it, because this is something you can use in your other courses. This is not just a history library, okay? This has scientific research, it has English papers, it discusses perspectives on maybe a specific book that your teacher might be talking about. It's really great on giving you some summary information, historiography behind subject matters. So utilize this tool throughout not just my class, but throughout the rest of your college education, okay? Once again, if you need some help, reach out to me. Do not wait too late in order to do that, because I am also engaged in other things too. And like I said, it can take me anywhere from 24 to 48 hours sometimes to respond, and that might be past your deadline point, especially if it's over the weekend. All right, so try to reach out to me early. All right, good luck on this. I really look forward to seeing some of the topics that you pulled, that you are thinking about researching. If you want to wait to submit the assignment till Saturday and you just want to email me your thesis as to what you're thinking about writing, you can do that too, and I will evaluate it and I will give you suggestions before you submit the final assignment too. That way it's not a back and forth and resubmission throughout the assignment process, okay? All right. Once again, look forward to hearing from you.